How's it going, everyone? Collector Crow here to talk about a new manga that I started recently and just give my first impressions on it. So today I want to talk about Zom 100. Alright, so Zom 100 is this new manga which I know several people have already talked about it, and I'm a little late getting to the party here. I didn't think I was actually going to do a video on this just because it has been a little while since the first volume did come out, but it just left an impression on me and I wanted to talk about it. The manga follows this kid right here, Akira Tendo, as he engages the end of the world. And when we first meet Akira, he's in this really dead end and overworking production job. He's working at like an advertisement agency, it seems. And this was his dream job. When he first got it, he was all bushy-eyed and really eager to prove himself and see what he could really do at this role. Very quickly, he realizes it's not a good place. There's overwork, unpaid overtime, people aren't going home. There's really no room for life outside of this job, not to mention the bosses are very toxic individuals. So he is just drained of energy almost from the start. He gets stuck in this idea that if he quits, it's going to create problems for his coworkers who are in the very similar situation to him. And he keeps telling himself, it could be worse, it could be worse, it could be worse. And he's doing all this while having these daily thoughts of killing himself. The interesting thing is he's not having these active thoughts of suicide. It's more that these thoughts have really pervaded his whole being. He as a person is just so drained that he latches onto any idea that will get him out of having to go to work, that will let him escape his situation. And suicide just happens to be on that list. And so every day when he sees a vehicle oncoming, a train, something, the thought runs through his head, if I just jumped out right now. And again, it's not an active thought, but I think the series really nails that feeling of suffocating, overwhelming depression that is caused by a toxic work environment. Akira was one of the most cheery people, and we see how his situation has caused these very dark thoughts to really latch onto him and burrow deep into his psyche. So I have to give this series credit for giving this topic its due respect. A lot of series might just gloss over this or play it off for a laugh here and there, but despite how lighthearted and just overall light-toned this series is, it does really take its time to present Akira's situation as something real and something that it is common across our whole society, our generation. I think that's just a very relatable thing that the manga did. So Akira has been constantly wanting to escape his job. He's in a rut. Everything he does it with low energy, can't do anything he wants. He's been stuck at this job for 3 years. And then one day when he's getting up to go to work, he finds the world has been overtaken by zombies. It just happened overnight, I guess. How it happened, why it happened, it's not important. Because this story isn't about death or dying. It's about living. And so when he sees these zombies for the first time, his first thought isn't about self-preservation or saving himself. It's how he's going to be late for work. And that's just how much this toxic environment has overtaken his life and his mindset. But it's not too long before he starts having a reversal and thinking, maybe this means I don't have to go to work. I'm free. I don't have to go to this toxic workplace and be around my coworkers who are just as miserable as I am, and my boss who makes me feel like crap all the time and do all this work that is just piling up on me day after day. He's free because of the end of the world, and that is just a powerful statement to me, that the end of the world to him is a positive. And it just really shows really what this work culture that a lot of people find themselves in our actual society, what it does to people's personalities and psyches. I really respect this series for giving the due gravity to this type of mindset and this type of situation, even if it only does it in a very small handful of pages before the zombie thing goes off the rails. So Akira starts trying to lead his best life, and that starts off with just a day of doing nothing except drinking beer. And when he realizes he's out of beer, what does he do? He just kind of slides down the drain pipe of his building, says hi to his neighbors, asks if they want anything from the grocery store, and then runs off all happy. And it's just such a fun juxtaposition to see that cheery attitude against the just dying landscape and everyone else's terrified reactions. Honestly, Akira reminds me a lot of Luffy from One Piece, both in his facial expressions, which are very Luffy-esque, but also in how he deals with conflict. He doesn't seem to really consider the ramifications that might happen if something goes wrong. He very much thinks he'll get out of it okay and it'll all work out in the end as long as he's having a good time. So after Akira has a little bit of time off, he decides, before I become a zombie, and he phrases it like that. He doesn't think that it's a possibility that he's going to survive forever against the zombie apocalypse. He knows his time is going to come. He doesn't try to delude himself with that. So he wants to make the most of his limited time remaining. And so he makes a bucket list of things he wants to do before he becomes a zombie. And that's the basis for the story. This isn't a story like The Walking Dead, High School of the Dead, or even I Am a Hero, where you get this really serious tone for the zombies. It's more about living life to the fullest in a world that just happens to be infested with zombies. I personally love the start to this series, and it has instantly gotten on my list of favorites. We've only met a couple of characters so far. I won't talk about them too much for spoiler reasons, but they're all very fun, and I am excited to meet more cast members. Something else that I think this particular series really benefits from is the fact that Akira is an adult in most senses of the word. And as something of an adult myself, I appreciate when a manga takes the time to explore the difficulties that life presents you beyond just being a teenager, because so many manga are focused on that demographic, and a lot of people who grew up with manga, they're now in their 20s, 30s, 40s, maybe even beyond. And so it's just refreshing to have this character who, even though he's only in his early to mid 20s, he's still had time to be crushed by life. Because that's something that happens to so many people once they make that transition from their teenage years to their young adult years to their adult years. And it's just nice to see that in a manga. And I think it really plays to this manga's favor, because you have someone who's experienced life, then had that ripped away from him, and now has the opportunity to go out and get a second chance at experiencing life. The one thing about this series that does concern me a little bit, I wonder how long this series can continue sailing on just being fun. I'm sure that there are going to be a few heartstring moments left, because we did get one or two in this first volume, but it's going to take a really special series to really pull this off for the long term. I want to feel confident that Haro and Kotaro Takata can pull this off. I'm not too familiar with any of their previous works, but so far they are off to a banging start with this series. Frankly, this is just one of the best impressions a manga has left on me in a while, and the juxtaposition of Akira's attitude and the world around him, it was just pulled off so well to me that I cannot wait to see where this series goes. So, this is, I want to call it a first impression review. I really don't have much negative to say about this series. It's just fun. So I highly recommend, if you're looking for a new manga to jump into and you like more lighthearted comedy with a little bit of action in, definitely check out Zom 100 if you can tolerate a little bit of nudity and gore here and there. So that does it for Zom 100. If you've read this, let me know in the comments what you think about it, and if you're as excited about this series as I am, because I am ecstatic. Thanks for joining me, and I'll see you next time.